Story 1. Brushstrokes of Absence. Jonah Marlowe lived quietly in a third-floor apartment at the edge of the city, in a building older than its tenants. The cracked walls bore yellowed wallpaper, and the floorboards sighed beneath every step. He had no family left, no friends to visit, and only the occasional delivery person to remind him he still existed in someone else's schedule. Photography was his escape. Not in capturing the present, but in preserving the past. Boxes of faded photographs lined his shelves, old family snapshots, ruins of friendships, and images of buildings long demolished. Jonah didn't take new pictures. He feared they would rot just as fast as the people in them. One rainy afternoon, while browsing the cluttered depths of a thrift shop, he found it. A paintbrush in a black velvet case hidden among brass buttons and cracked spectacles. The label was handwritten on aged parchment. For the touch-up artist. It was absurd, even theatrical. But something about the brush, the smooth handle, the fine, dark bristles, called to him. At home, curiosity outweighed doubt. He pulled out an old photo of his younger self, the one with the long scar running from his temple to his jaw. It had always made him look like a cautionary tale. He dipped the brush in nothing. No paint, no water, and began to stroke gently over the scar in the photograph. The effect was instant. The scar disappeared. Not in the photo. In his face. Jonah ran to the mirror. The mark that had haunted every job interview, every sideways glance, was gone. Not faded. Erased. At first, he was euphoric. He tested the brush's power cautiously. In a photo of his ruined apartment ceiling, he brushed away the cracks. The next morning, the ceiling was pristine. Smooth plaster, as if it had never aged. Broken objects, wilted plants, even burn marks from an old kitchen accident, gone, with just a few careful strokes. But it didn't stop there. Jonah began painting people out of photographs. An ex-lover who had left him shattered. A former friend who'd betrayed him. A rude neighbor. They all disappeared. Not just from the pictures, but from the world. Their apartments stood empty. Their names sparked no memory in the building registry. When he asked around, others responded with a puzzled frown, like he'd spoken a word they couldn't understand. With power came isolation. Jonah stopped going outside. His eyes stayed glued to photos, flipping through them like a god flipping lives. He became meticulous, obsessive, deleting imperfections, fixing memories. But then the skies began to change. It started with the clouds. They stopped moving naturally. They swirled as if stirred by a child's brush. The blue above seemed too saturated, too still. Like acrylic on canvas. Birds flew in odd, stuttering arcs. The sun cast no heat, only light, as if it had forgotten its purpose. Pop. Glitched. Faces looped expressions. Smiles stretched too long. Pedestrians paused mid-step, then resumed like puppets in a broken show. The city became a painting. Badly rendered and clumsily imagined. At first, Jonah blamed the brush. Had he changed something too fundamental? Removed someone too important? Desperate to understand, he reviewed every photo he'd ever altered. Every brushstroke. But the distortions persisted, growing worse. Then, one morning, he saw it. In a photo of his own apartment, placed on the mantel, there was a new brushstroke, one he didn't remember making. It cut across the room like a shadow. Part of his bookshelf. Gone. His favorite chair. Fading. In the corner of the image, barely visible in the blur of motion, was another hand holding the same kind of brush. Someone was altering his reality. Someone was painting him out. He began losing time. Waking up in different rooms. Objects disappeared between blinks. His reflection in the mirror flickered, sometimes showing nothing at all. On some days, he couldn't hear his own voice. People on the street no longer made eye contact, as if their eyes slid right through him. Jonah started photographing everything he could. Documenting, trying to catch the changes. But each photo revealed new edits. In one, his face lacked eyes. In another, his hands had blurred into mist. One photo showed his bed empty. But a figure standing beside it, holding the brush. He screamed at the photo, trying to rip it in half, but the paper resisted. Thick and cold, like skin. Now, he paints frantically in reverse, trying to restore what was erased. He repaints his scar. Re-adds cracks to the ceiling. He draws back old faces, hoping to remember their names. But it's not working. The reality he knew is slipping, unraveling with each brushstroke from the other side. Who holds the other brush? A stranger? A god? Another lonely soul who found a similar tool? Or a future version of himself? The world around Jonah is quiet now. Too quiet. His apartment hums with stillness. Outside the window, the sky is nothing but thick, uneven strokes of gray and blue. He sees no birds. No people. No city. Only a blank canvas creeping in from the edges. He sits before a photo, his last, of himself standing by the window, looking out into the painted world. The image is crisp, untouched. But in the bottom corner, the edge of a brush is just beginning to stroke across his silhouette. Jonah lowers his head. And waits. Story 2. The Tomb Beneath the River. The Tigris had run dry for the first time in 4,000 years. Climate experts and local authorities chalked it up to extreme weather, mismanagement, and the silent theft of groundwater by neighboring countries. But for Dr. Layla Arman, an archaeologist from the University of Berlin and one of the foremost experts on ancient Mesopotamian civilizations, it was a divine opportunity. Satellite imagery revealed odd geometric anomalies along the former riverbed. Sharp angles and smooth edges that shouldn't have existed beneath silt and rock. Within days, Layla assembled a multinational team, geologists, linguists, climate scientists, and divers. They called the site Sector 9. Beneath the cracked, sun-bleached soil, they found an enormous black stone door buried in sediment. No ziggurat surrounded it, no temple stones or royal seals. Only faint carvings on the obsidian-like surface. A figure with no face, arms stretched outward as if in welcome. Or warning. Where the name of a deity should have been, there was only chiseled erasure. A smear of nothing, as if even the stone had tried to forget. Layla's colleague, Mahmoud, noted, "There's no record of this figure in Sumerian, Akkadian, or Babylonian lore. It doesn't exist." But it did. And they opened it anyway. The tomb was a narrow chamber stretching deep underground, airless and black, carved from the same featureless stone. The walls bore bas-reliefs of cities crumbling, skies split in half. There was no sarcophagus. Just a pit. A shaft, unlit and seemingly bottomless. Layla dropped a flare. It burned red as blood, then vanished, swallowed by impossible dark. Within 48 hours of the tomb's opening, anomalies began. Thunder rumbled from cloudless skies, cracking like splitting bone. Birds migrated westward in spirals. The Euphrates changed course and ran uphill for half a mile before evaporating in the heat of an invisible wind. Herds of goats began walking in slow circles until they collapsed from exhaustion. And a plague of blind ants emerged from the tomb's surroundings, biting any living thing they encountered. Mahmoud started having seizures. He murmured in Akkadian while unconscious, repeating one phrase, "It walks again." Satellite data showed new fractures in the tectonic plate below the dig. Yet seismographs remained still. Instruments failed near the tomb. Batteries drained. Wireless signals died. Then came the dreams. Layla saw a city made of meat, its towers pulsing with veins. At its center, the faceless figure stood in a throne of bones, whispering without a mouth. The team stopped sleeping. Those who did, never woke sane. One night, a volunteer guard wandered into the pit with a smile carved into his own face. They found him at the bottom, still alive. Still smiling. Realizing the pattern, Layla withdrew from the team and began reviewing ancient flood myths. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the Apocryphon of Enoch, obscure cuneiform fragments from lost cities. All hinted at a being buried beneath the waters, chained before the first sunrise. It wasn't a tomb. It was a prison. An antediluvian sentence carved into the bedrock of the world, bound by the constant current of the Tigris. And now the river was gone. One by one, the team either fled or vanished. Mahmoud disappeared into the pit. Layla was the last. She tried to reseal the chamber. Tried chanting verses in Sumerian, in Aramaic, even tried blood. But the stone would not accept a second seal. The prison door only opened once. On her last night, she recorded a message, voice cracking, eyes hollow. If anyone finds this, don't try to bury it again. That's not how this ends. The water didn't keep it sealed. The water was it. It has rivers for veins. We didn't let it out. We let it drink. The recording cuts off with a sound like breath, drawn deep and slow. Not human, not animal. Just the sound of something remembering how to move. 6 months later, satellite feeds go dark across the region. Locusts return to Iraq in record numbers. And the Black Sea begins to recede. As if something beneath it is finally thirsty again. Story 3. The Memory Architect. The year was 2146, a time when the human mind had become as editable as a text document. Memories, once sacred, immutable, were now treated like files on a drive, copied, deleted, rewritten. People bought better versions of their own pasts. Painful heartbreaks were replaced with sweet farewells. Failures were rewritten into victories. There was an entire industry around it, and at the heart of that industry were the memory architects. Adrian Hale was one of the best. He worked alone from a dimly lit office overlooking the neon sprawl of New Babel City. His workspace resembled neither a therapist's room nor a programmer's den, but something in between. A sterile array of consoles and neural link rigs designed to interface directly with the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. Adrian wasn't just an editor of memories. He was an artist, known for sculpting reality so seamless that clients would forget they were ever false. One rainy evening, just as Adrian was preparing to close for the day, he received an urgent job request. The client's name was Lysandra Vale. A woman of striking reputation in the memory trade circles. She wasn't a normal client. According to the encrypted file she sent, she wasn't just asking for a few painful events to be erased. She wanted a complete reconstruction of her past. Decades of memories to be rebuilt and rewritten, polished into something perfect. And she was willing to pay 10 times Adrian's usual rate. When Lysandra arrived, she didn't look like someone desperate for a new past. She was poised, with eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Her voice carried the calm authority of someone who'd lived many lives. Or perhaps erased too many. "Don't ask questions," she said as she settled into the neural rig. "Just make me clean. No noise. No static. I want my life to feel right." Adrian nodded. "We all want that." He connected her to the interface, and the flood began. Working on memories was like walking through a dream. The neural feed pulled images, sounds, and feelings directly into Adrian's own mind, allowing him to see the client's past as if it were his own. He combed through her childhood, smoothing rough edges, softening traumas. At first, everything seemed normal. But then something strange happened. A memory surfaced. A birthday party in a suburban backyard. And for a moment, Adrian swore he remembered being there. Not as an observer, but as a participant. He saw himself, a younger version of himself, standing next to Lysandra. He could feel the sunlight on his face, the texture of the frosting on the cake. It was so vivid that he had to pull the neural link out abruptly, gasping for air. "Is something wrong?" Lysandra asked, her expression unreadable. "No," Adrian lied. "Just a glitch in the system." Over the following days, Adrian found the line between his own memories and Lysandra's becoming disturbingly thin. He'd be making coffee in the morning and suddenly remember an argument with her in a kitchen he didn't recognize. He'd walk down the street and recall holding her hand as if they were lovers. The memories weren't hazy or dreamlike. They were as real as anything he had lived. At first, he blamed neural bleed. It was a known risk of deep editing. Sometimes fragments of a client's experiences lingered in the architect's mind. But this was different. These weren't her memories. They were his, only. They didn't belong to the life he remembered. The more he worked on Lysandra, the more gaps appeared in his own past. Entire days felt missing. When he checked his personal memory archives, digital backups everyone kept as a safeguard, he found corrupted files where clean memories should have been. Someone had been editing him. On the third week, Adrian confronted her. "What are you doing to me?" he demanded. "I'm not just editing you. You're in my head. I see things that can't be mine." Lysandra tilted her head, a faint smile on her lips. "You're starting to remember." "Remember what?" "Who you really are." Adrian froze. "What the hell does that mean?" Lysandra leaned forward. "Do you think you're the one editing me?" "No, Adrian. I brought you here to put you back together. Your mind was broken. Shattered. I'm giving you the pieces you lost." From that moment, Adrian couldn't tell what was real anymore. Every session with Lysandra pulled him deeper into a labyrinth of overlapping pasts. He began to see flashes of another life. One where he wasn't a memory architect at all but someone else entirely. In these flashes, he and Lysandra worked together in a secretive organization that developed the very technology he now used. There were experiments, betrayals, a catastrophic event involving erased identities. He saw blood, fire, himself holding a gun. But each time he tried to pin down the details, the memories shifted like wet paint. Was this the truth? Or another fabrication? On the last day, Adrian strapped into the rig, trembling. He told himself this was the final session, that after this he'd walk away. As the neural feed merged their minds, he asked Lysandra one last question. Why me? Why rewrite me? Her voice echoed, not from outside, but from inside his thoughts. Because you built this world, Adrian. You made the first memory engine. You erased yourself to forget what you did. But I need you to remember. I need you to finish what we started. Suddenly, memories came flooding in. His own hands designing the first neural interface, coding the black protocols that allowed memories to be rewritten en masse. A failed test. Hundreds of minds wiped clean. And Lysandra, standing beside him in a white lab coat, whispering that they could fix it. The session ended with Adrian screaming. Not because of what he saw, but because when he looked into the mirror across the room, the face staring back wasn't his anymore. It was hers. Adrian woke in his office, alone. At least, he thought he was Adrian. There were files on his console. His own memory archives, rewritten. His reflection looked wrong, his voice unfamiliar. On the screen, a single message glowed. Architect, you have been rebuilt. Now finish the work. He tried to remember who Adrian Hale was, but the name felt foreign, like a mask he had worn once. Outside, the neon lights of New Babel flickered, and in the glass of the window, for just an instant, he saw Lysandra smiling back at him. Or maybe it wasn't her at all. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for more Rogue Nightmares videos.